Hello, my name is Ben. I'm a first-time solo traveler from the States, and this is my trip to Switzerland. My journey started back in September of 2022. I had been wanting to visit Europe for a while, but had been holding off in hopes that I would be able to convince a friend to come with me. That never panned out, so I hopped on a connecting flight from Orlando to Boston, which eventually made its way to Zurich, the financial capital. After landing, I didn't have much time. I was using the couchsurfing app to stay with willing hosts during my travels, and I wanted to find the address my host had given me as soon as possible, as I was somewhat anxious about my new environment. Google Maps had me getting on the nearest train headed for my destination, so I did just that and made my way towards the town of St. Gallen.
The place I'm trying to get to is actually a bit west of here, and instead of trying to navigate the trains again, which I'm terrible at, I never remember the instructions long enough to make the information useful, I've just decided I'm going to walk like an hour and get there. I don't really have service, but luckily GPS still works.
But it didn't actually matter that GPS still worked because I had made a huge mistake.
So I just got to the address that Google Maps was telling me to go. Not even the right town. I ended up calling my host, and he was really gracious and felt sorry for the situation. I was like, I'll just take the train back. Google Maps should not be trusted when traveling. Oh well.
After a quick hour-long train ride back the way I came, I was finally able to get my trip back on track.
Yesterday was awesome. I had an awesome day exploring with my host Michael, and we went swimming in Lake Zurich, and then he made some pasta for dinner, and we listened to music and had a couple drinks, and of course that brought the politics out of me, so he hates me now. No, we had a good night.
My host Michael lived in an apartment just west of the most northern point of the lake. It was cozy and comfortable, which made me think about just how minimalistic much of the interior was in both residential and commercial buildings. Nothing felt lacking, and everything was made to fit. Most of my footage from Zurich was actually captured on my first full day after arriving. Michael had gone to work in the morning, and I decided to use the couchsurfing app to find other travelers with which to explore the city. I finished off the day by going out to eat with Michael, and the next morning it was off to my next destination, Geneva. I will say now, so that I don't forget, as well as to keep myself from being redundant, that everywhere I went in Switzerland had me feeling like I was exploring the landscape and history found within a fairy tale. The beauty of the mountains and lakes, the temperate weather, and the history in this country is so rich and expansive. It all lends itself into helping you realize just how young a country like the United States is in comparison.
So I arrived at Geneva, and I'm gonna try to head down to the lake, find a place to swim, and also go to the bathroom. I have another host set up for tonight, but he's not going to be available until 10 p.m., so I got to try to keep myself busy and try not to overly fatigue myself.
My day in Geneva went by like a blur. I went swimming in Lake Geneva, also known as Lac Léman, walked to multiple historical and political sites, and did some tourist shopping, all while making some friends along the way. It was actually pretty fun to see shops that were selling, quote, American goods, unquote, mostly to see what their interpretation of what it was that Americans bought back home. I wrapped up the day by taking a local train half an hour west of Geneva. When I arrived at my stop, I had to walk another mile in the dark with only 3% battery left on my phone. Luckily, I was able to identify my host's farmhouse right as my phone died. It's hard to tell, and I didn't really bother recording until the morning to show it on camera, but there were some disgustingly huge cellar spiders lining the corners of my room, and I intentionally didn't check the spaces around my bed for my own sanity as I was going to sleep. The rest of the house had beautiful architecture and was otherwise quaint and homely. I didn't actually get a chance to meet my host, as he had gone to bed before I arrived and had left for work before I woke. Either way, thank you for your home, Hadi. No time to sleep in. The next morning, I packed my things and began the mile-long walk back to the train station, where I would eventually find a connecting station that would bring me to my next destination in Zermatt. While on the train, I sat across from a lovely girl who was writing out love letters to her boyfriend, a letter for each day that they would be apart. I thought it was sweet and snapped a photo to capture the candid moment, but only realized afterwards that it kind of looked like I was taking a photo of her cleavage. If you're seeing this, sorry about that. As I began to near my destination, I noticed more and more houses popping up on the mountainsides. It seemed so surreal to me that a normal day for someone might begin by waking up and stepping outside to look up into the massive mountain ridges that surrounded the valley that my train was descending. At long last, I reached the end of the line, and I was excited at the prospect of finally being able to gaze upon the very reason that I had come to Zermatt in the first place. I was here to see the Matterhorn. But before I could do that, I had to buy a ticket.
I just got my ticket to go see the Matterhorn, and that was so expensive. I guess don't come to Zermatt without any money, because you'll be stuck here forever.
The Matterhorn, being the tallest mountain peak in Switzerland, is almost 15,000 feet high in elevation and takes about half an hour by trolley to get to the viewing area near the peak. Unfortunately, it had been cloudy that day and the peak became obscured, but it didn't take away from the breathtaking sights and overall experience in the slightest. Besides the terrific sights of the Matterhorn and the surrounding mountain range, there was also an observatory and small chapel, both with historical implications that I don't feel I have the time to properly address in this video. When I finished exploring to my heart's content, I headed back down the mountain as I still wanted to explore the small city of Zermatt before I left. Despite its size, Zermatt had a large variety of shops, hotels, and activities. You could tell that tourism had left its golden egg touch on the community compared to some of its surrounding areas. And with that, my time in Zermatt had concluded. I would have stayed for a night, but my schedule didn't allow for it, and I was already preparing to be hosted in the next city on my journey, Lucerne. As brief as my stay in Zermatt felt, I was late pulling into Lucerne, and I felt eager to navigate my way through the bus system to get to my host, who was waiting for me to arrive. Luckily, it wasn't too much trouble, despite getting off the bus one stop late. And my host, Karina, welcomed me with the warmth of a mother. I spent that evening meeting her family over tea, and was then given a tour of the house. I discovered the next day that the beauty of the wooden interior of Karina's home was equally matched by the beauty of her yard outside. Her neighbors even had some goats. When Karina came back from work the next day, she offered to show me around the city, and I was all too ready to accept. She took me to see many historical locations, the Lion of Lucerne, the William Tell Boat, several different churches, the Mooseg Wall, and lastly my favorite, the chapel and Chaff Bridges. You really feel the age of the city when you realize that some of the original infrastructure dates back to the 1300s. The paintings and the arches depict scenes from the Black Plague, biblical tales, and other historical events. I really got the sense that death was a familiar theme for the people of that time period. When we finished walking around for the day, Karina and I sat down by the river and watched the sun sink below the scenic hillside as we shared a cigarette, which, as a non-smoker, made me feel like a very cultured traveler indeed. Before leaving Lucerne, I was afforded the privilege of walking the family dog around the neighborhood before I finally had to say goodbye. There's really not much to say after that. The finale of my trip was taking the train back to Zurich, where it all began. I boarded my plane and flew back to Boston without issue, where I had a friend waiting to pick me up. My stay in Switzerland, while seemingly short, left a deep impression on me and multiplied my interest and love of travel. There was so much to do and see that I didn't have time for, and I very much look forward to going back during another chapter of my life to continue where I left off. If you've ever considered going, I highly recommend it. Thank you for watching.